Hey guys, this is Chris from AndroidPit.com. We are here today with the Samsung Galaxy Note 3, the, crown prince of the phablet space, you might say, one of the devices that brought in the entire phablet idea, and the new kid on the block, the Oppo Find 7a. Now there's two versions of the Find 7. There's the 2K display version and the 7a, which is full HD. That's the same as the Note 3. So these are the two that we're going to put together side by side today and see which one comes out on top. Okay, so first things first, you can see both displays. We've set them up with the same wallpaper just to make it a little bit easier to compare. The Note 3 has a marginally bigger screen than the Oppo, but they're both rocking the same resolution. If we look at the design though, you can see there's quite a bit of difference. The Oppo is actually a tiny bit thicker, but it somehow feels and looks a bit thinner than the Note 3. So Samsung have gone with the same plastic ribbing on the side and the plastic leather look, you might call it, on the back, whereas Oppo have done this nice little layered effect on the back, on the side, sorry, and there's a textured plastic on the back. Personally, I'm not much of a fan of Samsung design at the best of times, so I tend to prefer the Oppo, but that's entirely up to you. Same goes for the interface. I'm not much of a fan of TouchWiz, as our regular viewers will know, and so I guess maybe I am a little bit biased against TouchWiz, but I have to say, when I go into the settings on both devices, to me my reasons seem pretty fair. I think the Color OS on the Oppo is a lot clearer and a lot less cluttered than it is on the Samsung. Of course, Samsung use a black interface because of the AMOLED display, and Oppo have gone with a white interface look just because they have an LCD. So interface is entirely up to you. When we're talking about displays, you can see that the Note 3 on the right has a slightly yellowish tinge to the whites, whereas the Oppo is a little bit crisper on the white side. But if we go back to the home screen, you can see with the same TouchWiz wallpaper, you can see that the Note 3 is a lot richer. The colors are a lot more saturated, which you can see in the green here. And if you take a look down the bottom at the reds, you can see the sort of really bright scarlet on the Note 3 versus the sort of more brownish, rusty red on the Oppo. Generally, if you're a big, bright, blasty, oversaturated color fan, then the Note 3 is pretty unbeatable. And for pure dynamic range, it's pretty hard to beat. But if you like something a little bit more subdued, a little bit more lifelike, then the Oppo Find 7 is certainly no slouch either. Now, one of the greatest features on the Galaxy Note series is, of course, the S Pen. So the digital stylus that slotted in at the bottom there, when you remove it, it'll notice that the S Pen has been detected, and you've got your Air Command window to have quick access to note taking, taking screenshots, all kinds of stuff. So if you're a stylus fan, then obviously the Note 3 is going to be your champion because the Oppo doesn't have a stylus. But what the Oppo does have going for it is a whole range of motion launch options, which we've seen previewed on plenty of other devices this year as well. But I have to say I'm pretty impressed with the wide range available on the Find 7a. So I won't go through them all because they're kind of long, but you've got a whole bunch of custom gestures, which you can see demoed there, to open a bunch of different apps or settings. You've got a whole bunch of screen off gestures, which you can do on a turned off screen. There's quite a few of those as well. And in-app gestures, so you can access a whole bunch of other stuff from within apps. On the specs front, they're both fairly similar. There's minor differences, but nothing that you're really going to notice in everyday use. You can see the Find 7 does come out marginally on top in our benchmarking test, and that's pretty much the same as what we've discovered just with our daily use as well. The Find 7 does tend to be a little bit smoother, a little bit snappier than the Note 3, but that's probably a problem with TouchWiz. When it comes to speakers, both devices have an external speaker, but you can see on the Oppo it's much bigger and rear mounted, whereas on the Note 3 it's a tiny little one at the bottom. Let's have a look and see which one sounds best. Alright, now let's check out the Oppo. All right, so I'm no expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I have to say the Oppo is definitely louder. Both in terms of quality, they both sound pretty great to me, but if you're after sheer volume, then you would be better suited to the Oppo. When it comes to cameras, the Oppo has a 5 megapixel front-facing camera and the Samsung only a 2, but up the back for the primary camera, both are rocking 13 megapixel shooters. Samsung notoriously do great cameras. Oppo, I don't have too much experience other than with the N1, and I wasn't tremendously impressed by that device. But if you want to check out some examples of the two, you can have a look at the full article, which is linked in the description below. But generally, I found that in full daylight, both devices performed roughly equivalently, but at low light, the Oppo really comes into its own. It's much better. It's almost embarrassing for the Note 3. However, the Note 3 is a little bit better at macro stuff, and I think closer subjects, it's really crisp up close. So there you have it, guys. On pretty much every category that we put the two devices together in, the Find 7a came out at the very least on a par, if not marginally better, in my opinion, than the Note 3. I was completely surprised. I thought the Note 3 would absolutely destroy the Oppo, but it not only didn't destroy it, it actually kind of struggled in some areas. Some of my personal preferences for, I guess, interface and styling are possibly purely my own, but I think at the very least Oppo are onto a winning recipe here, and I think Samsung better watch out. But let us know what you think in the comments below. If there's any other comparisons you'd like to see, let us know as well. And make sure you subscribe. Check us out on Facebook, check the website, follow us on Twitter. You know the deal. Google Plus too. Till next time, guys. Ciao.